Well, hey everyone, happy Tuesday. Hope you guys are having a good day. It's 6 p.m. Eastern, and that means it's time for another blockchain update. Of course, I'm Chris Bennett, your blockchain beard guy, here to talk about the latest, what's going on in the blockchain and cryptocurrency world. That way you can stay up to date, and of course, answering any of your questions that you have along the way. Let's start off with what's going on. Ethereum had a very rough September. Ethereum was down 13% in September. This makes it the second worst month it had in the past year, behind a 16% slide in June. And I commend this author. He goes on to say that it's difficult to link short-term price movements to any specific event. That's very, very true in the crypto world. And oftentimes you hear a lot of people trying to tie a particular price movement or trend to some event or set of conditions in the world, and it's very, very difficult to do. We've seen a historic rally over the past 12 months. Pullbacks are to be expected. And Ethereum's still up, excuse me, about 830% over the past year. So it's not hurting, but there are a couple things that might be dragging the price down a little bit. First of all, if you've been following the Ethereum 2.0 upgrade process, you know that the London upgrade put back in place in August. And one of the big touted benefits of the London upgrade was a significant drop in transaction fees. But we haven't really seen that, and we haven't seen the performance benefits that many people were expecting too. And so this kind of has some folks maybe a little bit more bearish on the overall Ethereum 2.0 upgrade process. This move away from proof of work towards proof of stake. And then what else might be driving some of the price down is Ethereum had an unexpected hard fork back in late August. This was actually an issue that popped up with the Geth client, the most popular Ethereum client. And that is the Ethereum protocol written in Go, hence the name Geth. And there are other clients that you can use. Like I said, none are quite as popular as Geth, but there are things like CPP ETH, the Ethereum protocol implemented in C++, and so on. But it was a bug in Geth that caused this hard fork. Luckily, node operators updated pretty quickly, and so this hard fork didn't end up having too much of a negative impact. The concern was, though, that there could have been a double spend attack, that a 51% attack might have been a lot easier when the network was forked into two. Now, this was a really good quote here in this article. This is a reminder that blockchains in general, and Ethereum specifically, are new and disruptive technologies. They can do amazing things, settle $1 billion transaction in minutes and program money like software, but they are not fully mature. Does this mean that you shouldn't be building on blockchain? Well, of course not. It's a great time to explore blockchain. And if you understand some of these risks and concerns, there are a lot of early mover benefits, early adopter benefits that you can gain. But you do have to know what you're getting into and just be aware of how early all this still is. In April, the Ethereum blockchain was hit with a bug in one of the software programs used to access it. And in November, many of Ethereum's DeFi apps temporarily went down after a Geth upgrade debacle, which led to the chain splitting in two. So another Geth-related issue there. Ethereum prioritizes faster development, but that comes at a cost at a more fragile set of software implementations. Some crypto experts attribute Ethereum's success to its first mover advantage. Most NFTs and 78% of DeFi apps run on Ethereum, according to the website State of the dApps. So Ethereum is still very much the leader for public blockchain platforms, at least ones that you're going to build some kind of application or smart contract on top of. But they're moving quick, and they're really trying to keep ahead of the competition. This move towards proof of stake it's really hard to overstate how significant this is. If this is successful, Ethereum is really going to redefine and reshape a lot of the blockchain landscape. If they're not, there's a very good chance that something comes along and replaces Ethereum. But September was a little bit rough again, down about 13% over the month. Another interesting story is a DeFi platform named Compound, and a bug in one of their recent updates put about 162 million of their cryptocurrency up for grabs. About 162 million is up for grabs after an upgrade gone very wrong, according to Robert Leshner, founder of Compound Labs. The price of Compound's native token, called Comp, is down about 4.8%. Some are billing this as the biggest ever fund loss in a smart contract incident, but investors, for their part, don't seem to care all that much. The crypto market shrugged off the largest ever fund losses. If it was nothing, the future for DeFi is bright, but we're in uncharted territory and there's still a lot to be learned. And boy, I think that last part of that last sentence says it all. There's still a lot to be learned. Yeah, if we just saw the largest smart contract DeFi loss ever, and the currency that's tied to it is only down less than 5%. To me, this says a lot of investors maybe just don't understand the fundamentals of what they're investing in and how this technology works. If I were an investor, I'd be much more concerned about this. The owners and the folks at the platform itself don't sound all that concerned either. The article continues on Wednesday. Compound rolled out what should have been a pretty standard upgrade. Soon after implementation, however, it was clear that something had gone seriously wrong. Once users started to receive millions of dollars in comp tokens. $30 million worth of comp tokens were claimed in one transaction. The saving grace of the entire debacle, however, was the fact that the pool of cash that was open to exploit had a finite amount of tokens. So they kind of lucked out. Compound is the world's 5th largest DeFi protocol with a total value of $10.3 billion. Greenspan said the protocol can easily absorb this loss, and a lot of it will likely be returned, but the larger issue would be if people lose confidence in the system's ability to function properly. I think that's definitely something that one should take into consideration. And you can kind of see what I mean. The folks at this platform don't seem all that concerned. Hey, we can absorb this loss pretty easily, but at least they're thinking about, hey, we don't want people to lose confidence in our platform or just in the larger DeFi model. That's always a more expensive problem to solve. So interesting that this hasn't been more of a story. Again, 162 million up for grabs, and we haven't really heard too much about it. All right, next up. There's been a lot of talk about central bank issued digital currencies, and we've seen some nations move forward with that. Earlier this year, China moved forward with the digital yuan. And there's been a lot of speculation about what is the U.S. going to do. Are we going to create a digital dollar? Well, the Federal Reserve announced plans to start a review process. They're going to launch a review of the potential benefits and risks of issuing a central bank digital currency. Fed officials are divided on the matter, making it unlikely they will decide anytime soon, which is interesting. You can hear a lot of caution in this story and a lot of these quotes. And just the fact that they're internally split, again, I think says we're probably not going to see anything happen quickly, but it's interesting to see moves in that direction. Fed Governor Lael Brainerd said, "It's just very hard for me to imagine that the U.S., given the status of the dollar as a dominant currency in the international payments, wouldn't come to the table in that circumstance with a similar kind of offering." However, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell has indicated he sees reason for caution. He said last month it's more important to get the digital dollar right than to be first to market. So you can see they're definitely taking their time. Mr. Powell also said there are privacy issues that would need to be addressed since a Fed CBDC system would, in theory, allow the central bank to see what every user did with the currency. And I was really happy to see this article point this out. In all these conversations about central bank digital currencies, this seems to be one concern that goes on under the radar or just isn't really discussed or given the airtime that it needs. But we really need to think about that. Remember, blockchain gives you two different things. It gives you decentralization, but it also gives you permanence. And we really need to question when we build something on blockchain, do we really want both of those things? Sometimes if you only want one or the other, you just want decentralization but not permanence, or the other way around, you might actually be worse off building on blockchain. Randall Quarles, the central bank's point man on financial regulation, has voiced more skepticism about the need for a Fed digital currency. He said this summer that the dollar is already highly digitized and expressed doubts that a Fed CBDC would help draw people without bank accounts into the financial system. And that's, I think, another interesting point, too. Advocates behind a central bank issued currency talk about how this might allow for greater inclusion, banking the unbanked. In fact, this idea of banking the unbanked is really something that has been prevalent in blockchain from day one. And for all the talk about it, it doesn't really seem like the technology or maybe the people working with it have done much to address that problem. I sometimes cynically wonder if it's one we really care about or if it just sounds good to talk about at the trade shows. Philadelphia Fed report warned that a U.S. central bank issued currency could destabilize the financial system in a crisis if people pull their money out of banks, mutual funds, stocks, and other investments and plow it into the Fed's ultra-safe currency. So again, a lot of concerns that we haven't really heard surface in this whole conversation about CBDCs. Says next up, the Boston Fed, working with researchers at MIT, is expected to release a more technical paper outlining how a digital dollar might work. So I definitely look forward to that. I have a lot of technical questions. What would they design the network like? Who would the node owners and operators be? How many would there be? How would those nodes be protected, etc.? And certainly the large Facebook outage yesterday points to some of the dangers of putting all of our servers in one basket. So anyway, when we see that new research come out and a little bit more technical information on this, you bet we will talk about it here. So be sure to stay tuned. In closing, some advocates say that digital currency could help improve the effectiveness of monetary policy by allowing the central bank to change interest rates directly on accounts holding CBDCs. This could allow central banks to bypass often fickle financial markets and bring monetary policy right to the retail level. I think that's really, really interesting. This idea that monetary policy might be able to be affected directly just through a central bank issued digital currency. All right, and then last but not least was a stunning report that came out last month. I've been wanting to talk about this one for a while, but this really focused in on the EWaste behind Bitcoin. If you've been following the Bitcoin narrative, one of the big concerns behind proof of work consensus is energy consumption. And that's one of the large factors that's driving Ethereum away from proof of work towards a newer, more energy efficient model called proof of stake. Well, what doesn't get talked about, at least doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion, is that it's not just environmentally harmful because of the energy consumed. There's also a lot of e-waste. This mining hardware is very, very specialized, very expensive. And these chips that they contain, called ASIC chips, stands for Application Specific Integrated Circuit. They're designed just for mining. So they don't really have any use outside of that. So let me kind of fill you in on the details here. A single Bitcoin transaction generates the same amount of e-waste as throwing 2 iPhones in the trash. This is from a new analysis by the Dutch Central Bank and MIT. It says here, well, the carbon footprint of Bitcoin is well studied. Less attention has been paid to the vast churn in computer hardware that cryptocurrency incentivizes. The lifespan of a Bitcoin mining device remains limited to just 1.29 years, so very, very short amount of time. As a result, we estimate that the whole network currently cycles through 30.7 metric kilotons of equipment per year. This is comparable to the amount of small IT and telecom equipment waste produced by a country like the Netherlands. So it's a fair bit of waste. And again, it says here later in the article, the reason why EWaste is such a problem is that unlike most computing hardware, these ASIC chips, these very specialized pieces of hardware that just perform mining, they don't really have any alternative use. There's nothing you can do with them. So you can't repurpose that hardware, it just gets thrown away. So this really screams two things. Anything we can do to move away from proof of work to something more energy efficient is going to be a win. The other thing I think this really speaks to is there is a tremendous opportunity to be had if someone can think of another use for random number generation beyond just cryptocurrency mining and give this hardware a second lease on life. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer to that, but maybe you do. And if you do, I think there's quite a market out there. Anyway, those were just a few of the headlines that stood out this Tuesday. Again, be sure to join us here every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern for a blockchain update as we look at what's happening in the news and headlines around blockchain and just generally keep you up to date with what's happening in this world that's moving so quick and so fast. And of course, any questions or comments along the way, we'd love to hear from you. So what do you think of what's happening in the world right now? What do you think of this idea of a digital dollar and central bank issued digital currencies generally? How do you feel about the EWaste component of proof of work networks and the future of DeFi and where Ethereum's going, the 2.0 upgrade process? Any of that, we'd love to hear from you. Well, until next time, I'm Chris Bennett, your blockchain beard guy. This has been another blockchain update. I'll see you guys next time.